Hello, hello. Welcome everybody to Mi Gente on Air. We are doing a show here this Friday afternoon. Typically, our time is on Tuesdays at 7 p.m., but for whatever reason, sometimes we have to make it on Friday so that we get a show in for the weekend. And the show is broadcast on Saturdays as well as Sundays, 5 a.m. on Saturday and at 8 p.m. on Sunday. So I want to welcome everybody into the room. I know it's a short notice, but come on into the room here and let's talk about what's happening in the world. We are now in 2026. It just seems unreal to me that we are in 2026. It seems still to me, to my ears, to my mind, futuristic. And I always think back when I was in my teens in the 80s and I was watching Back to the Future movie with Michael J. Fox. And he goes through that time warp and he goes to 20, I think 2022. I'm not sure. I don't remember too much the specifics, but I know it was in the 20s. And I thought, wow, here we are. We're here. We're here in 2026. We're even halfway into the 2020s now. And in 4 years, we'll be in the 2030s. So time is marching on. And we've got a show today that we're going to talk about what's happening in the world, what's happening here locally in Saginaw, and everything in between. So come on in, come into the room, and we'll start the show now here on Mi Gente on Air.
Welcome to Mi Gente on Air on 100.5 and 790 News Radio WSGW and online WSGW.com. Now, here is your host, Larry Rodarte.
Welcome to Mi Gente on Air, everybody. Thank you for being with me here as we start our new year in 2026. Happy New Year to everybody. And so far, it hasn't been too happy on my end. I don't know how everybody else is feeling, but it's just a tough time. And we're going to talk about what's happening in the world today, as well as everything that's happening and that comes to my mind locally here in Saginaw. But here we are, 2026, and prior to coming and starting the show here, we were talking on social media and talking about how we're in 2026. And it just is amazing to me that we're in this time period because I referenced the movie Back to the Future in 1980s when I was a teen and how Michael J. Fox, he goes forward into time with that DeLorean car. And I think the time period that he went into was like 2022, I believe. And although they didn't get everything right in terms of what they predicted would be in 2020s, they were pretty close. The only thing I haven't seen that they depicted in the movie was flying cars. But, I just can think back when I saw that and how cool that was. And here we are. We're in that futuristic time, 2026. And it's just amazing to me. But I got to say that I thought times were going to be a little bit different when we reached 2020s. I thought it was going to be maybe in my mind somewhat depicted like in the movie. And it would seem like a happier time. But we're in a mess. We are in a mess here in America. And it just is unbelievable to me that we are going through this because I never thought in my lifetime I would see what is happening to what I consider the greatest country in the world, the United States of America. But there is so much unrest right now. I can't remember a time when it was like this, except for in my very early life in the late 60s when there was the riots in Detroit. And, the only thing that kind of got us out of those riots in Detroit was when the Detroit Tigers won the World Series that year. and it seemed like it brought everyone together, it unified everyone. And we are not united today, believe it or not. And I don't know if it's so it's so much there's so much division, and it's all kind of based on politics. Where have we gone, America? What the heck has happened? And my producer asked me what song I wanted to play prior to the opening of the show. Well, we always have a segment in the show to give a cultural theme to Mi Gente on air. And the song I played was by Elida Reina, Duele. The pain, the pain. I didn't want a happy song. I wanted something where my heart is and where I'm feeling it. Um, and I'm more left. I'm more of a leftist in my beliefs and all, but that's not what this is about today. This is about feeling the pain of our country and what everybody's talking about. And of course, that's the shooting that happened in Minneapolis, where a 37-year-old woman lost her life. And I get it. I get that within 5 minutes of everybody seeing the videos that were going around on social media, everybody had formed their opinions by that point. And it's that quick because of social media and because of cell phones. And it's just, you wonder, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing for our country? But that's the world we live in today, 2026. We're here. We're January 9th today. And we have seen so much that our attention span, I don't think, um, it's very limited now. If there's not new news coming out on a daily or every hour, it's like we're scrolling through that cell phone looking for that excitement of breaking news, and it's just sad. I think it's just sad. But we can't get out of it. It's who we are today as a people, and I'm not saying everybody, but for the majority of people, if you look around, if you're in public and you look and you're in a restaurant, you're in McDonald's, you're on a bus somewhere. I was with a bunch of young people yesterday, and everybody was on their phones. Everybody was scrolling. Everybody, um, you know, they either were laughing or they were amused, and their attention was specifically in that phone. And that's where we are. That's where we are as a people. And I don't condone at all what happened in Minneapolis, of course. Um, and I know that that's the big topic today of where everybody's saying, uh, she utilized that vehicle as a weapon, Ra- Rachel Good. And, I see it in a different way. I think she was just trying to get away. She was scared. You had her wife who was there videotaping and was, I just as I started the show, I was hearing on the radio that there's a new video out showing as well that the wife was kind of instigating the whole situation or what have you. Whatever the case may have been, it wasn't worth her losing her life. And it's not the first shooting of ICE agents to American citizens or immigrants. There is a list of them coming from California, Los Angeles, Arizona, and some of the other place hotspots where immigration enforcement is being displayed. And so I think we're going to see a lot more of it. We're going to see more of it in 2026 unless something's going to be done. And the way that the responses that I have seen, I think that there are people that are rooting for that ICE agent that, he was in the right because his life was in danger. I get that. I get it. But, how many of us have been in front of a car that has moved because we have somebody who's angry at us, or have heard about stories like that, but we don't have the firearms. Would we respond the way he did? Would we shoot through the window, at close range? Three shots that rang out and caused her life, a mother. And so, what's surprising to me, and I have to throw this question out there to everybody, is, what there is the division, the polarization politically. Would this reaction be the same had that ICE officer, y- you know, been African American or Latino shooting a white woman? And it's something because to me, what I understand here in this situation is that the immigration issue trumps racism. Isn't that something? Um, it's a question that we all have to consider, I think, and no pun intended by saying it trumps racism, but I think there are more people that are looking at, well, you know what, I'm standing by President Trump and his decisions to crack down on immigration, and by all means, that's the most important thing in their life right now because they have villainized immigrants and migrants in this country. And this woman was going out there. I guess some say that she dropped off her child and found herself in that predicament. Others are saying that her and her wife targeted, the ICE agents and that they were trying to help friends and immigrants in that community. And I'm sure that there are many, many Americans that would probably want to do the same. And there are many that will not. You know, on the MAGA world, I see so many comments where they say FAFO. Everybody knows what that means. And, basically, too bad she found out. And then there's many that just see this as a murder, I should say. And, it's just a sad situation, a sad day for America. And I have to question, is it worth it? Is it all of this? Is it worth it to make America great again? Is this really making America great again? I have several friends in Europe because I've been a host family to many exchange students in the last 15 years. And they are just, it's just unbelievable to them what America has become. And they're not looking favorably on our country. I don't think the world is. And it's just continually is going to get worse if we continue on. And the unbelievable um, domestic terrorists that she was labeled as by the president of the United States. It's really uh, it's really upsetting. It's upsetting to a lot of people, and I think that we as a country have seen so much in the last 6 months. You know, the death of Charlie Kirk, the death of Rob Reiner, the death of this young woman, 37 years old. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I don't know if subconsciously we even know how that affects all of us because it does. It really does. And everybody can form their own opinions. Um, and everybody can also strive to do better. And I think we all have to. And we have to somehow, reduce the hate that's going around. Um, and I just see so much of it, so much of it. And I have a cousin that she got off of Facebook for 2.5 months, and I have yet to talk with her um, about that and how it affected her life. But I can understand why she did, and maybe that's something that many of us need to look at. I know that I do not get on X. Um, I simply are on TikTok and Facebook, and TikTok can be very informative, but it can also be very dangerous, I think. And I think that um, the world is seeing it play out for what it actually is. in 2026. And sometimes it's not a good thing. And so I have found myself, and I don't know how many of you have found yourself kind of being diverted to other TikTok videos that are have nothing to do with politics, have nothing to do with race, but simply farm animals. I've been watching farm animals, and sometimes they can be pretty grotesque because they're showing the animals giving birth to their young ones. But there was a one from Africa. It was a baboon, believe it or not, and her name was Cindy, Cindy the baboon, and her brother and his mother, they adopted this baboon. It was an orphaned baboon in the wild, and they adopted it and raised it as a daughter. And she just passed away at the end of the year last year, December 30th, I think. And she had so many following, millions of followers around the world, and people were really sad because they Cindy the baboon brought them peace. I saw comments where people who suffer from anxiety said that they would tune into Cindy and her simple life, to help them cope with their anxiety and depression. And it was really something to see. Also, Bridget Bardot passed away in France, and she died on the day that Cindy the baboon died. And as you know, she was very controversial, Bridget Bardot, and she was very much for animal rights. She fought for animal rights the majority of her life after she was no longer an actress. Um, so just so much is happening. There seems to be bad news continuously happening in the world, and then you turn on your news or social media, and every day the Trump administration is bringing forth something that's just diverting our attention from what really matters. And what is that? What really matters? Well, we all are striving for happiness and for, you know, love of family, love of country, love of God. And that seems to be more difficult this time and place. And one of my cohorts here at the WSGW radio station, Kareem Bowen, who has United Shades of Gray, I ran into him as I was coming into the studio into today, and we said, we got to do a show, and hopefully meeting a show together. And I hope that's going to happen in the near future because we have a lot to talk about. And typically, my show, I'm not so much trying to push the political agenda or talk about racism or just some of the things that his show may talk about more. My show has been more about the Latino community, of course, and what's happening locally or on a national level that is affecting Latinos. But this issue of what happened in Minneapolis, it's affecting all of us. And it's really sad because there have been so many posts where I've seen people who are saying, if you support Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form, take me off your Facebook friends list. People are that extreme, and I get it. I totally get it. I've had to block several family members even because of their extreme push of trying to make you feel you're wrong and to laugh at you because now the Trump administration is in power. And I didn't see that so much under the Biden administration. That's just something I'm seeing. That's my opinion. We didn't mock the way that I feel that sometimes some of my own family members have done. So one called me out and said that I was trying to be Superman because I was posting on my Facebook, my personal Facebook account, um, incidences where um, immigrants were being detained under undue process, and they said, "Why are you posting that? You're insinuating that I was trying to be Superman." And it's not that at all. I'm not trying to get any attention, believe me, in terms of this immigration issue. But the thing is I want the world to see. I want the world to see what is happening so that people can make their own judgments on what is happening in our country. And sometimes that gets swept under the rug because there's a lot of people who, may not be on social media platforms. And so, that's the reason I'm doing that in the midst of all the other posts that are happening in my life, from selling food, from family gatherings, or family posts of my aunt who's 94 years of age and telling some of her story and history in life. But um, I can't just ignore it. I just can't ignore this, what's happening to my people. And yes, it's my people. Not only are they my people because many of them are Americans, but they're also culturally my people because of my race. And I can't just stand by idly and be complicit. And so, if you see a swing towards me talking more and more about this, it's justified in my eyes. And I can't just talk about a show that's happening, at the University of Musical Society and what they're performing, because this issue is much grander and much more important. And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at today in bringing you this broadcast of Mi Gente on air. I may infuriate people by talking about this. I don't know. But if anybody has comments and they want to call in, I would like to move my show towards actually call in so that we can talk about these issues, because I think it's important. I really think it's important. And my goal is to do what I can in terms of um, my platform for my people, whether it's through the magazine or whether it's through this broadcast, um, to bring to light issues that are going to affect us as a people. And, this November is very important. The midterm elections, 2 years after the big election that has changed our world so drastically, the midterms will be happening this November. And so, it's going to be, it's a political year again. And, we'll see what that brings. But um, we all have to do our part and make sure that our voices are heard by our vote. So that's where we're at. And locally, there's not too much happening. We have a dance at the Union Civica Mexicana for Valentine's Day dance. The group from Pontiac, Michigan, Grupo Ilusion, will be playing. And so get your dancing shoes ready and let's celebrate Valentine's Day as much as we can. There has to still be celebrations in our lives. And, you know, the Union Civica Mexicana has put this dance on annually every year. And it's a feel good time where we just enjoy life and we enjoy the good music, the good food, and the good camaraderie that we have when we're there. So we're going to go into commercial. We'll be right back here on Mi Gente on Air. So welcome back. Welcome back to the Facebook page here. It's important to talk about these issues, like I said, and I hope everyone understands, because it's not in my personality, I don't think, to actually talk about these issues that are so sad at this time. But Gary Jimenez, who is out there in Lubbock, Texas, originally from Saginaw. Hi, Gary. He says everyone just needs to get out there and enjoy their life. And that's so true. That's so true. But at the same time, how can we just ignore what happened? We've seen that has been other shootings that have not gotten the attention that this one specifically has, probably because this one, she lost her life. And the other ones, they lived to tell their story. But um, that's exactly where we're at in this country today. And also, I just want to mention that the uh, the times that we are living in, there really is an increase in a lot of mental health issues. And I talked to somebody that worked at the Saginaw Mental Health. In cases are at an all-time high simply because of anxiety that is being, you know, it's coming forth at a higher level because of where we're at now. It also was that way, of course, during the COVID crisis when people were in their homes. And I can understand that too, and I can understand it here. So if you're anybody who knows somebody with anxiety or depression, reach out to them and just see if they're okay, and have be a shoulder to lean on in these times, because uh I remember my aunt. I have an aunt that, well, I had an aunt, she's passed now, but she was in her 90s already. And there was a scare for her with cancer. And she said, I'm not going to do anything if it is cancer, because I don't like the way the world is going. And she was ready to go. And so, the mindset of everybody we have to take into consideration. Um, and it's not a happy time. It's not a happy time. But anyway, so if anybody has a comment that's out there that's listening, or a concern, put it in the chat room here. I'll try to address it. And you'll hear me again another 28 minutes blabbing, right? But sometimes I don't have guests, and I have to come on here and talk what's on my mind. And I guess you know I'll probably do that, because after 5 years of the show, I've hit up just about everybody that I can think of. And if anybody wants to be on the show because they have a business or they have an event coming up or what have you, instant message me. I'm open. I'm open to putting anybody on the show who has something to say. This is a show for Latinos, we know, for cultural contributions, as well as our concerns that we have as a people. So let's go back into the show and let's talk more about what's happening in America here on Mi Gente on Air.
This is Mi Gente on Air on WSGW.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome to Mi Gente on Air. I'm going to try to uplift the show a little bit more this second half. I know I'm down. I am down in this world today. I've gotten some bad news, and with everything that's going on as well in the country, it's just not a happy time, for Americans. And if you think it doesn't affect you, and you think that you can just brush it off, subconsciously, I don't think you can. I think it affects everybody, and not in a positive way. So, the shooting in Minneapolis is, I think, a turning point again. And we've had several within our country in the last 6 months, as well as in the last 5 years. How many of you out there remember when, I think it was in 2020, in the midst of COVID, we were, all on lockdown, and I think we were just kind of coming out of it in that May day, when you got up in the morning and you were on social media and you're scrolling through your phone and you seen the killing of George Floyd. You know, that really shifted America's thoughts. And out of that, the Black Lives Matter movement started. And there were so many that were against it. And they said all lives mattered. They didn't understand the point that they were trying to make, that how African American men were being targeted by police force and were being killed unjustly because they made a wrong turn in life somehow, but they were killed. And I just remember specifically that day how George Floyd called out to his mother when that police officer had his knee on his neck, and how the world seen how he called out, "Mama, Mama," because he probably was fearing for his life. And so we seen what happened, and we seen how the world has shifted since then. And sometimes, you know, it'll take another event like that to maybe shift the world's opinion again. And I think we've seen that in a way with this shooting in Minneapolis. And isn't it funny that that event with Rachel Good being unalived. It happened within a mile, I understand, from where George Floyd lost his life. And so here we are, Minneapolis, the hot spot. It's a sanctuary city. And, I got to give it to the mayor, Fry, of Minneapolis. He came right out and he said what was on his mind, because that's where we're at. That's where we're at in America today. We are speaking our mind. We're saying things that maybe we might regret. And he says that, maybe he was a little bit off by saying, throwing an F bomb in his press conference. When have we seen that in a political figure? But that's where we're at. That's the temperature of this country now. He apologized, but he did say that, you know, he threw an F bomb and a ICE agent killed someone. Where's the balance in that? And so I have to give it to him though, because he called it out for what it was, BS. And I get it that we have the enforcement of ICE agents in this country now. The Supreme Court went along with it and allowed them to racially profile Latinos in this country, and it's really sad. And I understand that this is coming from the top leadership of President Trump, but I have to say, it's wrong. In my world, in my eyes, it's wrong. There's got to be a better way. Because when you have American citizens being unalived because of their constitutional right of protesting, there's something wrong with the system. And that's just my beliefs. I'm just one person, right? But it's difficult to be an American right now. We know this. And anybody can say, well, get out of this country, go back to Italy where you were this summer, whatever. No, I'm not. This is my country too. I was born here. And I have had people tell me go back to Mexico. I've never lived in Mexico except for 3 months when I was 17 years old, when my dad sent me there to know my family and to know where I came from. But I've never lived there permanently. And, sometimes with what's going on, sometimes I wouldn't mind going back to Mexico for a spell. But, that's a whole nother issue. The whole Venezuelan issue, that's something that this killing in Minneapolis trumped that even. Can you believe that? Can you believe that what happened with them taking the president of Venezuela, it's kind of under the radar now, as well as the Epstein files, as well as so many other issues that are happening because of this killing in Minneapolis. And so it's like, man, we're being stimulated on a daily basis, like living in a twilight zone because of all the news that keeps coming out daily. And, to even see Marjorie Taylor Greene leave the House the way she has and has turned her opinion on, who she helped get into the presidency is just really a telltale of what is going on in Washington, D.C. One of my other listeners here on Mi Gente on Air send me a message right now. And his name is David Guevara. He's from San Diego, California. We got people on this show, listening and tuning in from all over the country. He says, yeah, Larry, I live in San Diego and ICE is around. San Diego also, plus the border is here. I think about being stopped every now and then. I haven't yet, but I served this country in the Marine Corps military, but I still wonder what I would do. I hope it never happens. And that brings to my attention the fact that, many of the shootings that have already happened due to ICE in the last 6 months. Well, is June 7, 8 months now. When in June, Trump sent ICE to Los Angeles. One of the things that I've seen, of course, is that Latinos are targeted. We know this, but after what happened in Minneapolis, any American, this can happen to any American. You don't have to be Latino. You don't have to be African American. Anybody can be the target if you are utilizing, especially your constitutional right to protest. And we do have a right to protest. Now, do we have the right to interfere, with ICE agents in arresting people or detaining people? No, we probably don't. We don't. But so many, this issue is so means so much to them that sometimes they do get in the way. And maybe that was the case in Minneapolis with Rachel and Rebecca. But I don't think that anybody should lose their life over it. And I think that we will see in the courts this played out. I hope we see it in the courts played out, because I would hope that there's impunity, that there is not impunity for these ICE agents simply because they are under the direction of President Trump. And we have to, make sure that everybody is held accountable, right? And that's the world we're in. So, to all my listeners and my fellow Americans, uh, do what you can to tone down the aggression that I'm seeing out there. But don't ignore it. Don't ignore the fact that this happened, and just, sweep it under the rug like so many other issues that are happening in our world today. And we're something big and bigger, and or something that draws your attention even more so will come along, because it's going to. We know here in 2026. Um, but do what you can, you know, t- to lessen the hate. This is what I want to say, to lessen the hate in the world. And I guess we all kind of, some of us get caught up in the idea of trying to prove that we're right about a point on social media or whatever. And is it worth it? I don't think we're going to change anybody's minds. Um, but maybe incidents like this, or incidences like when George Floyd died, those are major things that have impacted America and were turning points. And maybe some may change their mind about this administration. I'm not saying that that's um, going to happen, but it is my hope. And that's why I'm talking about the issue. And that's why I post on my social media platform incidents where uh, people are unjustly arrested. There's been several. And we have to look at that. And, I don't mean to be a downer today. I really don't. But that's where my heart is. I can't sit here and be happy this January day in 2026 when we see this issue that is so profoundly affecting Americans across the country and people around the world. It's really something to see Canadians there that they say they're so happy to be living in Canada. And Gary Jimenez, who's out there in Lubbock, he also says they shot a priest with a rubber bullet in the face a while back from top of a building. And we all saw that while he was protesting. And I seen an archbishop also arguing to tell ICE to get out of one of his churches in his diocese just yesterday. And so, these confrontations are going to happen. They're going to happen, and they're probably going to be escalated in the near future. And we have to be prepared for that. We have to be ready, because that's what our world is today. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to become of 2026. We can only wish and hope for the best. 2025 was a tough year, and 2026, it looks like will probably be even tougher. And hopefully, some of the rhetoric and some of what is happening will calm down, if you will. But we have to be realistic and realize that this is where we're at, and do our part as American citizens to still make this country great, because I don't see it. I don't see what happening in the world in our country today that's making America great again. It's not going in the right direction. And when they say let's make America great again, you know, when was it so great that they're looking at? And was it great for everybody? Because I know, maybe they're looking at uh, America in the 60s and the 70s, or even in the 80s, which I think are the greatest time to have lived. But was it great for everybody? Who are they trying to make America great for? But this isn't the answer. This ain't it. This is not it. What is happening? And I get it. We can't have open borders. But I think that we also have to remember what this country was built on, and that was the labor of the immigrants and the migrants in this country. And I'm not just talking about the Mexican immigrants or the Mexican migrants. I'm talking about the Italians and so many that came to the land of the free, came through Ellis Island, was welcomed by the Statue of Liberty for a better life for them and their families. And I think that's why people come here. They want a better life for themselves and their families. Simple as that. And we see what's happening with Venezuela. We have seen where President Trump is trying to deter the drugs that are coming into America, and I'm for that, but it's just I don't know if in the next administration that we do have that they're going to charge him with war crimes because of that. I don't know. So as we continue into 2026, we have to have strong backs. That's all I'm saying is, as we see on a daily basis so much in the news. I can't even watch regular news anymore because it's just, turns my stomach. So I guess by scrolling and getting my news on your cell phones, you can do it at your own pace. Mentally, I think that's better for me than turning on the news and watching um, a biased report, or unbiased in some cases, right? But you know, we have to do what's best for us mentally as well. We have to keep that in mind, because even though you may think that it doesn't affect you, it does. And if you got children, it really must affect you, because it's their time frame, their life, their future that you may be concerned about. And it's justified. It's justified to be um, in this time and place where we are worried. And that's why you see so many cases of anxiety. I remember 20 years ago, you never heard of anxiety. You didn't even understand what that actually meant or was. And they're, finding now that it's a mental affliction that is happening when you suffer anxiety and depression. And we know this now. So, if we, like I said, can help anybody with that in this time, we have to, because it's tough. It's tough to be here living in this time and place. And I always want to just go back to the 80s. I always tell the young people today, man, you guys really missed out in the 80s, because it was a more peaceful time. The music was great. In fact, last night, my 20-year-old nephew, he came up to me and he says, I heard this song today. It was called Radio Gaga. And then he said Radio Goo Goo. He was going back and forth with that. And he says, and I thought of you. And at some time in his life, I played it for him, I guess, or whatever, but they were playing it at Walmart. And we went back and forth about it because I said, I don't think they say Radio Goo Goo. It's Radio Gaga. But he actually was right. The second verse of that is Radio Goo Goo. And so it led to us watching the Live Aid concert of Freddie Mercury and Queen from 1985 at Wembley Arena for Live Aid. And he didn't even know that they sang We Are the Champions, or so many of the hits of Queen from that time. And the commentator was saying, man, I wish I could have lived through this time period because the music was so great, and how Freddie Mercury commanded the stage and had so many people participating with him with the full house of Wembley Arena in London. And so, we were talking about that, and that led to me showing him the 25th anniversary of Motown, with Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5 coming together after Michael had gone solo. There's some really great moments in musical history that have been shown. And so he was just like kind of blown away, him and his girlfriend. And I would ask them, do you know this song, or do you know about this, or whatever? And I just found myself being this great historian to music, in which I'm not, but it was just through living through that experience. And I know many of the listeners out there will remember Live Aid and remember Motown 25, and so many other great moments in musical history. But I don't even know where I got off on that topic there, but at least that was something a little bit more positive, a little bit more happy, right? Freddie Mercury, the great Freddie Mercury, and Michael Jackson. And we question why uh, why so many huge artists like that had succumbed to drugs. Not Freddie Mercury, but Madonna. I mean, not Madonna. Gosh, I'm losing it. Whitney Houston and Prince and Michael Jackson, and I think they kind of have to try to overcome the fame of their personas and all. But you know, I hope that you understand where I'm coming from with this show today. My heart is heavy, and I think that's what's happening with a lot of Americans. And I just couldn't come on here and start the new year in January 2026 on a happy note when I see what's happening to our country. And so I talked about it. I got a little bit off my chest. And I hope that you will continue to listen to us in 2026, as we are now in our fifth year of producing this show. And I hope that things get better for us in this country. If they do, believe me, I'll be talking about it. And if they don't, well, that's something that, I have to consider each time I come into the studio, where I'm going to go with what's happening in the world. But I can't just ignore when I see an injustice. And that's just how I've always rolled, whether it's with the magazine, Mi Gente, or whether it's the show, Mi Gente on Air. So I pray for the best. I hope for the best. And I hope that everybody kind of subconsciously looks at their heart of hearts and, really moves in the right direction, and not always think that they have to be right about every issue in any argument on any platform. So thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for being with me here today as we kick off Mi Gente on Air in 2026. We'll see you next week here as we continue on and celebrate Latino culture, contributions, and concerns. Adios. All right, all right. Thank you, everybody. Gary Jimenez says, Elvis. What are you talking about, Elvis? It's his birthday, maybe? I know that he would have been like 91 years old. Is that what you're referring to, Gary? Please let me know. Um, yeah, I think Elvis, that's the only thing that I know of, because my sister sent me a message saying that it was Elvis's birthday yesterday, and he would have been 91, I believe. So Elvis Presley, the great Elvis Presley. Oh, maybe you're referring to him taking drugs as well, like I mentioned Prince, Michael Jackson, and Whitney Houston. But that's not funny. But he passed from drugs, and yes, also, yeah. Okay, Gary. All right, Gary. Well, thanks for being with us here from Lubbock, Texas, and thanks to David Guevara, who sometimes I wonder if he forgets that he's from Saginaw, too. These are Saginaw-born uh, individuals who are tapping into what they consider still home in their hometown, and it's nice to see you guys on here. And who would have thought way back when we were living in the 70s that we would be living in this time and frame in the 20s in America? And David Guevara says, I never forget. He never forgets he's from Saginaw, Michigan. So thanks, everybody. Again, thanks for being with me on the show. And let's pray and hope for better times. Okay, we'll see you next week.